What's up, everybody? Welcome back. Yo, can you believe it? It's October. Yo, that's crazy. We haven't been here for a while. Everybody, welcome back. This is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Assemblyman Al Taylor, and we got Wendy in the building. But listen, we got it. I'm just going to run down certain things because it's just so crazy that we haven't been here, and we understand. Like everybody's had personal things to do. Back to school, September. There has been so much going on with life, but we are blessed to be alive and here to converse with you all. And yeah, we're back. We really are. And thank you for all the people that was asking, like, what happened? Where were you? Where are you guys at? But no, we're here. We really are. So with that being said and saying all that, thanks to all the sponsors, Melba, Leon, Chocolat, Soft Illusions Art Gallery, my beautiful wife and her mother, um, Reggie Wells Quality Speakers, and Deadly Arts of Survival Magazine. They got a lot going on. They are doing their damn thing. And also, shout out to Jacob Ingram Taxes. They are doing their things. And we'll talk about that more and more. There's so much that we haven't talked about because we haven't been here. And I get that. But, we're going to try to catch up in the time that we are here. We're not going to overload these circuits tonight with so much, but we want to just kind of ease our way back into your viewership and things of that magnitude. So with that being said and saying all that, like that's my slogan. My wife always teases me about that. I got to bring my man Al, Assemblyman Al Taylor, in. Al, first and foremost, how are you doing, brother?
Man, blessed, highly favored, having fun, y'all. Welcome to Real Talk. I'm the co-host with Bill Foster at the Navigation System, and we're glad to be up in here. He said we're going to go slow. We only know one speed, forward, straight, and hard. Let's do this thing. Come on.
Hey, Al, let me ask you a question. I saw you at the African American Day Parade. I saw the Assemblyman doing his thing, what he always does. Did you have a good time?
Oh, man, I danced, I partied, I sweat. By the time I got to the end of that route, my whole little $10 suit was sweaty, man. Pull a string and the whole thing would have unraveled on a brother.
Yeah. You know what's so funny? I didn't get a chance to make the parade like I usually do, but the one thing is, it seemed like it had a nice turnout. Elaborate on that for me. How was it?
It was great. What I always enjoy are all the other groups that come in. I think they had over 40 folks. They had a few floats, and I got a little bit discombobulated because I got to holler at people on the side streets just before they come out and get onto the route. They were staging, getting ready, NAACP and so many other groups, just having so much fun. And then when it kicked off, I was one of the honorees. So Congressman Adriano Espiat and some other folks were in that front part. And the team that I was with, the crew, we were rocking with Lieutenant Governor Delgado. My wife was by my side the whole route. So it was so much fun. Normally I'm working and she's like, well, where are we going after that? I mean, girl, you put in a whole day's work doing that. So it was fun. We were able to hang out and enjoy the parade. And at the same time, we enjoyed the parade. The vehicle I was next to had Congressman Charles Rangel, Assemblywoman Inez Dickens, and a few other folks. So we kind of rolled around with that. We had fun.
That's good. That was good, man. I mean, a lot of times people don't understand, like, they always want to hear about the negativity, especially from a law enforcement standpoint. They used to always talk about, the negativity with the Labor Day parade and the African American Day parade. But I didn't hear of too much anything really happening. I think it was just really a lot of love out there.
Super big time. I thank you for bringing that up because there were no incidents associated with the Brooklyn Labor Day parade, and that whole weekend that leads up to that parade went without a hitch. And normally we'll get some information from as a community activist. We're normally contacted by the precincts to say, hey, listen, there's beef with this block versus that block. Can you guys be a presence, especially toward the end of the parade? And that wasn't the case this time around. It went well, What I would like to see them do is bring it back to where they used to go, and even extend it from 100 and I think 11th Street all the way up to 145th Street, and then end in Colonel Young Park. That's my pitch, and a few other of others of us are asking that question. And then
where did it start at now?
It starts at 111, 112, somewhere right around there.
No, it's still because that's when I used to march in it and things of that magnitude. It's always at 111. Did it do that again this?
They did that, but they cut it at like 130 something street, 137th Street. You know, they dropped it about 8 blocks.
Yeah, that's because it used to go to 145th and make the right turn.
Well, no, 142nd, and then bring that right and come on down into that block. And I mean, as a kid, it's always been that way. So under the Bloomberg administration, they pulled it back. But while we're talking about the parade, they need a lot of support. If you know folks that are listening, you want to be a volunteer and get involved in it, they need a lot of help on the tech savvy part, getting more vehicles in, more floats. I think a float off the top of my head may have been like $2,200, which is not a lot of money when you think about all the folks that are making money in these communities. And it would be nice to see, I'm not dropping names, but I'm just saying some of these folks that are making money to come out and support, even if they don't want to be on it, put your logo on it. Let's do something so that, and I don't want it to end up on Fifth Avenue. It's a Harlem pride thing, and we should continue it and, you know, come in and be a part of it. Early on is better.
Yeah. You know, what's so funny? I definitely want to pluck your brain tonight. No, only on the good thing.
Man. Easy.
Yeah, only on the good thing. You know, and then I'm glad we have Wendy here, because I do want to ask her a question a little later, because what I'm so mad at myself for that, I say that, you know, figuratively, that we lost a lot in speaking about our Latin culture, Hispanic month. September was Hispanic Heritage Month. And I'm so annoyed that I wasn't able to do any shows in September. So I do want to get into that. But then I want to talk about what the Latin culture, the Latin community means to you too, because a lot of your district is of Latin descent. And, you know, we are one, you know, you know, it's just a different stop on a different train.
Oh yeah, so, yeah, we're there.
Yeah. So what did the Hispanic Heritage Month mean to you? Because I know they need to be recognized. They need to be understood. They are here. The Latin community is here to stay. For those that don't think they really are. They have a voice, and they are part of your, you know, your constituents. They help get you elected. So just elaborate on that, brother, for me.
I thank you for bringing that up. More importantly, you know, not only my district, but the culture is New York City it lives and breathes and moves by eclectic group of diverse folks, whether they're Haitians, whether they're Dominicans, whether they're Cuban, Ecuadorian, everything. They're there. And when I was in, let me back up. I was in Dominican Republic on a legislative trip, and we met with a few members of the Assembly and the Senate, met with the president of Dominican Republic. We met with their first responders team, if I'm using the correct terminology there.
Responders. Mm-hmm.
Right. And we also met with the president of the Senate, the Dominican Senate. We met with the legislators from the equivalent of the Assembly in Dominican Republic. Bless you. And we also met with the mayor of Santo Domingo, Catalina. Just amazing. So, and it was kind of like a goodwill and conversations. And the conversation was kind of like what you said. You represent, and we had this back and forth with two of the members. Like I said, I had the most Dominicans in New York City. Outside of Dominican Republic, I said I had the most. And of course, that's really not true anymore. Most of them are in the Bronx. However, I have the largest voting bloc of Dominicans in this community that I represent. So we had a chance to talk and do some things. I was invited on one of the shows. Listen, we got love like nobody's business over there. I was the first person ever in the history of the 55-year show to pray in English at that show. My wife was able to go with me, just exchanging ideas and how we can do what we do better. One of the things that came out of that conversation, we met with it's an organization, and they're going to be coming to New York, and they're providing access to teaching. So, for example, I could take an 8-week course and get a certificate in this or a certificate in that, and it runs the gamut of so many different things, and it's free. It's going to be free, and it's not just for the Dominican population, but everybody that would like to enhance their skill set. So when I talk about my community, there's so much. I think we were at the mayor's kickoff for Hispanic. Was it Hispanic Historic? Kind of get the name right. That we did Gracie Mansion. He saluted. Yeah, Hispanic Heritage. Then also we were just last week with us, Assemblywoman, City Councilwoman, Carmen De La Rosa here. So we have a very diverse group. Speaking of which, stay tuned because my lines will get redrawn again next year. We're going to redraw the assembly line. But one of the things that I said, and I'm kind of long-winded, I apologize. One of the things that I said in DR, and I say it again here, is that not only is this the hub of a lot of Dominicans in Washington Heights, but they are the backbone and the engine that drives New York City. When you look at the people that are working, you look at the people that are teaching the professions, they're that group. They're not just here, but they're impacting everybody else's life. So I have a home attendant for my dad, straight from DR. Who's not from DR? Right. You don't think about it. You just think that group and they're over there. No, they're there. They're in our unions. They're in our education system. They're in government. They are making power moves. And to your point earlier, those that think it's just a fleeting, they're here to stay. And they're here similar to how my parents and my grandparents came up. They were looking for a better way of living. And they're getting that opportunity, whether you're educating in jobs in Upward Mobile. Those are the things that's going to be able to allow them to reach back and bring others. And a lot of them may be first generation, first generation graduates, career structure. So all of those things, I say they drive this city.
And it's so funny. I'm glad you said that because, we could talk about that if we want to, about this whole immigrant thing and stuff like that that's becoming just all out of whack. But I wanted to bring Wendy in because, Wendy, you are a Latina, and I wanted to know your perspective of what did that month mean to you, or just what it is to be a Hispanic or a Latina, whichever way you prefer to be called. And because some people may call you an Afro-Latina, use your terminology for what you feel is comfortable. Because I will do a show on that, Latins in America, because I want to understand how they feel. Because like I say, I always tell people we're one. If we united, we're an unstoppable force. Not that we have to divide our culture or anything, and or one culture has to take a secondary station to the African Americans or the Latin. We all are proud people. But the thing is, it's one block and another block. I just wanted to get get some feedback from somebody. So Wendy, give me your take on what it's like to be a Latina in America.
So I immigrated to the United States when I was 9. I'm Dominican. And to be quite honest with you, I identify as Afro-Dominicana because, like you said, it was just a different stop, right? But one of the things that resonated to me when you said they are here to stay, and I'm like, I don't know any other place. This is where I've always been, kind of. Right. I don't necessarily celebrate the month. I celebrate the whole year. Um,
Good.
it's for me, from my perspective, living in Harlem as a Dominican woman and raising my sons here, um, it's beautiful. It's welcoming. I've never had experiences where, because I'm Dominican, because I'm an immigrant, I feel separate or less than. Not with my Harlem community, not with my Washington Heights community, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I think that we must continue to work together. The reason that we are so slow to progress as a people, all of us, is because we continue to separate ourselves instead of uniting. And we continue doing the same things for each group. Like, we must do this and we must, and we are all one. We're here, we're fighting together. The system is failing all of us.
Yeah.
And so we must fight together. And that's how I see it. I mean, I don't, um, I these days you have to look up and Google, like, what is Latinx and what is this and what is that and how do I identify? The only way I know how to identify is from where my roots, my ancestors came from. This is how I was brought up and taught, and here I am. I don't see it as a separate thing. Our needs may be different because of language barriers and things like that, but it goes the same all around. We all have needs. And this is why, we vote for the assembly member, because we need someone to represent us, to make sure that those needs are met, those resources come into our communities.
Yeah, thank you. You know, so funny. I appreciate that. And like I said, I really, one day we're going to do a show, and I want you to be a part of that day, as because to get back into that, because like I said, this big thing about the immigrants and stuff like that, and people have their own feelings and stuff like that. And I had put up a post, and I said something about referencing. I'm coming off the top of my head about it's so funny. And I reference conservatives always talk about they love America, but they hate the people in America. You know what I'm saying? And I had somebody kind of rebuttal me, and he said that that's not true. And I said, well, if you look at mostly everybody here, especially of different descents, nationalities, maybe their grandparents don't speak English. No matter if it's Greek, Italian, Hispanic, whatever the case, whomever you want to pick. You can pick African Americans, whatever. And they don't speak English. It's broken English. And they're probably the only generation from their parents that have graduated from maybe a college or definitely from a high school, because mostly everybody else was blue collar. They're the ones that's hollering and hooting and hollering. You know what I'm saying, Al? Talking about, no, keep them out, keep them out, keep them out. But you're not the one that's going to go work at McDonald's. You're not the one that's going to do that day labor. But you're the ones that's talking about, I don't want you here. So I just felt like I was like, kind of fall back. Some people got to kind of remember where they came from. And, or how about just go back to your parents' house where your grandmother's living upstairs or your grandfather's living upstairs, and they're still speaking in their native tongue, whichever that is. Italian, Greek, Latin and stuff. And a lot of people have forgotten that. What's your thoughts on that, Al? You're muted. You're muted. Mm-hmm.
Man, I was sounding so good. I think that's an interesting point, because a lot of those folks or folks like them have been quick to say, let's cart them off, let's not let them in. But they're not going to be the day laborers. They're not going to be the nannies. They're not going to do those jobs that these other folks think is beneath them. And at the same time, those folks were actually, and in some instances, notable people with name recognition were found to have had workers, illegal workers in their homes. So somebody like a Trump may have had people that didn't have their paperwork together, and they were working on payroll, and they're, oh, we didn't know. But you tell people, America, that you don't want these people here. And if we look at it, to your point, Bill, if we look at it and see, okay, who are we talking about? And let's just take that whole people group out and watch the impact of the economy. Because who's going to pick that fruit? Who's going to rock those kids?
Yeah.
Who's going to do the jobs that they don't want to do? And their necessities. So, and go one further than that. Look at COVID and what happened with the gig workers. Now, everybody, go back 3 years ago. You didn't see that many little scooters running around and people. It's a whole freaking career.
Yes.
And I say kudos because they saw, what did it say? Necessity is the mother of invention.
Mm-hmm.
So when you look at people, not you and I, and Wendy and my wife,
Mm-hmm.
we had to do what we had to do, but there were people that never had to leave their homes. They didn't have to stay in the city. They went to the burbs or wherever they felt comfortable. And they had these people that they don't want in America delivering their foods.
Right.
So, we can't have it both ways.
No, and that's crazy that you said that. And you know what? We might have a real talk moment. Does your lovely wife want to comment on this topic? If she does, she's more than welcome. But if that's up to her, but I no pressure, no harm, no foul. You know what I'm saying?
No problem at all.
Yeah.
She stepped away. She'll be back.
Oh, okay. But go ahead, continue then, because what's so funny? I'm tired of a lot of people always trying to divide and conquer. You know what I'm saying? That's where I'm at, Wendy, and that's where I'm at, Al. I say this all the time. I always talk about my tier one friends, and I always reference them that because that's the best compliment I can give them. And I say tier one because, when you talk about union structures and pensions and stuff like that, my tier one's known me since I was 10 years old. And I grew up in a mixed community of Latins and Africans, Americans. And the thing is, today we're still friends. So we may not speak as often as we do. But the beautiful thing about them and myself is they taught me their Latin culture and I taught them my African-American culture. And we understand that, wait a minute, we're just one. You know what I'm saying? As we grew older, like, wait a minute, you get the same ass whip as I get. You just get it with a different verbiage on the end. You may be a Latin person and you may get the rice in the corner. You know what I'm saying? And the spoon, where I might have to go out and get the switch. So
you gonna get that whooping. The beat down is real.
And the bottom line is, yes, go ahead, Al, continue.
And sorry, Bill, they hit us with every syllable. Didn't I tell you not? I'm like, just beat me already. Let's get it over.
From chancletas from a regular old slipper, it still hits you upside the head the same way. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think what we're saying here is that when people when people talk to each other, like genuine, really real conversations, like you an officer, former officer, you spend 8 hours, 12 hours in a patrol car with somebody, you're going to learn something about that person, whether they are the a-hole that you thought they were. Yes. But at least they are a-hole. Or they're like, you know what? They're just quiet. But you'll learn. And one of the things that I experienced in the military that is riding in patrol for 12-hour shifts with people that barely spoke to me in the barracks. So we living in Germany, we're in the same place. But they're not talking. We're not kicking a willy bobo. But I think when we talk about communication and we're talking and we're in that space where, like, you can walk into a room on the other side of the world, wherever that is, and be Bill. Yes. And you're going to walk out of there with somebody that you connected with. And that person will respect you for who you are, and you're that game changer. There are a lot of us like that. But unfortunately, when we're just doing the talking head type of thing, and you don't know a real black person, you don't know a real Hispanic person, you don't really know a Cuban person or a Haitian person, and you only know about the boat people that they turned around and sent back, or you only know about the Jews that they wouldn't let in this country. I mean, pick a people group that America didn't want after they decided that they're going to come up here and run the original natives out of here. And now it's all ours, or all theirs, if you would. I mean, every last one of them. And they sent us their criminals from Europe.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, and what's funny? That's straight real talk. And we have to understand people people always say, oh, people gravitate to this one and gravitate to that one. I mean, who not? If I see a black person in the room, I'm going to gravitate to a black person. But now, I mean, with my knowledge of self, I'm going to gravitate to anybody that I feel that can converse with me, a person of color. But the bottom line is a person that's going to speak in native tongue, Latin or Greek or Italian or whatever, they see somebody that favors them and looks like them, they're going to go up to them. I mean, Al, I'm sure how many times in our communities, years ago, go in the store, somebody starts speaking Spanish, I would be like, no, I don't speak any Spanish. You know what I'm saying? I'm not offended. You know, when you was younger and naive, you get offended. But listen, if you telling me I look like you, then that's all right then. You know what I'm saying? But when I was younger, I'd be like, no, I'm black. Speak English. You know what I'm saying? But right now,
I was indicted.
Once you start learning your history and your culture of who one is, and I just full transparency, everybody, Facebook is really trying to throw the whammy on me. So we're right now, we are maybe being projected on Facebook, but we are only conversing on YouTube. So for those people out there that are listening to us, understand we're strictly on YouTube right now. Facebook has done something crazy. I don't know. I'm gonna have to sit down with Zuckerberg or Goldberg or whatever his name is. You know, I'm gonna have to give him an offer he can't refuse. But right now we're on YouTube, so I just wanted to say that because we're here behind the scenes trying to work things and it's not working. But we are on YouTube Live and we're kicking it. So with saying all that, you know, we live in a world now, Al and Wendy, that things have changed. We're not even going to talk about laws right now. We don't want to talk about that. I want to talk about the solution. Mm-hmm. How do we save our youth, Al and Wendy? How do we save our youth? Because right now we have other situations, like I'm talking about, where it's like everything has superseded safety. Mm. You know, we're more worried about cancer culture. We're more worried about LGBT communities. We're worried about all kind of other issues besides safety. What happened? The structure of how we were all brought up, is just watered down right now. You know what I'm saying? Because if we wouldn't have to worry about any laws, if people raise their children right, that's my personal feeling. Mm-hmm. If you raise your children right, because you know we weren't out, Wendy, we weren't out there committing crimes. The little crimes we did didn't hurt anybody. You understand? Nobody's perfect. Go ahead. Go.
I'm sorry. I think there was a level.
Please go ahead.
A level of accountability that was in place. So if your mother saw me out the window illin, then in the community that we were in, your mama had a right to give me the 1-2 without the biscuit, right? And if I was smart, I wouldn't tell it when I got home because I would get another one. But your mama would have already contacted my mama or saw her in the laundromat and said, you know, I had to whoop his butt because he was going. Then you guarantee to get another one. You're getting two. It's a twofer. Whoever caught you, whoop you, and by the time you got home, they put one on you. And that was the community that we looked beyond our own and we paid attention. That doesn't exist like it did before. I think, you know, my voice says that we have to take care of our youth on a lot of levels. Mm-hmm. Make sure they're going into schools that educate them. Make sure that when they're walking through the community that they are not targeted by any people group or entity that says they are bad just because they see them in a particular wardrobe. But then the other side is, how much time are we really spending with them to hear their voices, to understand what they're walking through? I had a conversation with Catholic Charities and an organization. They did a march on Saturday at the Kennedy Center. And the conversation was really about ending violence and how do we engage. And truth be told, I think the youngest person that I saw in the room was 19. And she was the only one. You know what I mean? So, and someone raised that point. How do you have a conversation about somebody and you don't invite them to the table to have a conversation? So I didn't do it tonight. I'm gonna try to do it next week. It's been a minute, but I sometime will drop in with Nan just to hear the huddle group, which is college and high school people coming together, and they're talking. I'm just hearing. They're like, "Yo, Al, come talk to us." I said, "No, I want to come hear what you guys are saying." And ladies, so
Yes.
when I started doing ministry in the South Bronx, up by Bronx River, the first thing that someone told me, he says, earn the right to be heard. So for like about a month, I would sit at the McDonald's on Westchester. I can't remember that cross street. And I would just sit there for 2 hours. I'd have a fry and a shake or something, but just to hear what they were talking about, just to hear what they were experiencing, because I was going to spend a considerable, and I ended up spending a lot of time in that community, but understand what the language is, understand what they're expressing, how they're getting along, how they're interacting. So then if I'm going to speak, I have to earn the right to speak first by listening to them and understanding their culture and their situations, whatever that. And that's inclusive of also having my own children, my own children, having our children, because they are a barometer to what's going on out there. So listening to one of my 4 daughters, or listening to my son, their kids, my nieces and nephews. So there's consistency, and I'm learning constantly.
Absolutely. Everybody, this is Real Talk Chronicles. I'm your host, Bill Forster, with my co-host, Assemblyman Al Taylor. And I'm going to bring Wendy in on this. Wendy, because I'm going to ask you, you're a mother, and to my knowledge, and I don't want to speak out of turn, you're single at this moment, right? You're not the father of the children. How is it about, how have you raised your children to be law-abiding with that old school?
Well, not to sound cliched, hard work, a lot of tears. But it takes a whole village, right? And I've been very, very fortunate to have my parents and my brothers and my work family that has been very, very influential on my sons. And so it's even though they are involved in what I do, it's still the same thing as what Al was saying. We don't bring them to the table. And they tell me this. I talk to my sons almost every single night. We sit down and talk for an hour or two. And, it's always the same. Like, they don't have the same opinion as I do, and you would think they would. But I think that that's why it's so important what Al just said, which is to listen to their voices, right? So when I'm talking to my sons and I'm asking them about our mayor, I'm asking them, well, how do you feel about this? How do you feel about that? And when I listen to their responses, very different than what I would like them to be. But they are well thought out, logical responses for them as young men of color growing up in the city.
Mm-hmm.
I may not like their responses, but then that tells me, oh shit, we've got work to do.
Right. But so, and I just say that, mute yourself, Wendy. So I was at the Yankee game. Malika and I ran into one of my dudes that we go back, and he's a brown skinned Latin brother, Puerto Rican. And he used to say, he was telling Malika and I how people looked at him, the African American community looked at him like, yo, who's this dude? Is he Spanish or is he black? And then the Latin community would look at him like, yo, you negro. You know what I'm saying? But the bottom line is, he still grew up in a community structured where he understood family values. I jumped back. I digressed in regards to the Latin community and stuff like that. But the bottom line is, the moral of my story is we all were still brought up as one. You know what I'm saying? And I think that in lies the problem that exists right now. You can't reprimand anybody. If you do,
Yes,
people are just retaliating with so much violence. I mean, there was a thing in the school. Like I said, we haven't been here for 2 months, all of us, and a little boy in school beats up his teacher because she took his cell phone. The EMS worker just got stabbed repeatedly in Queens. I mean, the kids and outside, and I think in a part of Philadelphia, 100 kids go in Wawa and ransack the place. Now we have all these just random just crimes of just jumping out, or a lot of crimes now are committed on mopeds and bikes. People just riding up. Just it's almost like purging without. It's like purging like in a ghetto way. You know what I'm saying? Like you ain't really purging. You just purging wrong. It's like you're not even doing purging right. Go ahead, Al. What's your take, brother?
Oh no, you're absolutely right. I mean, it looked like Wild Wild West. I was talking to someone the other day, and they wanted to express the concerns about the police and how they are responding to the mopeds, the bikes, any type of any type of transportation, whether it's those bikers, the three-wheelers, whatever it is.
Yeah.
You're welcome to do a lot of things in New York, but you cannot reward bad behavior. And I understood her concern. I said, but listen, on the other side of that, these folks or those vehicles are used in crimes of stick-ups, shootings, rape, and everything in the middle. They know that they can get away with it because nobody's stopping them. And 99.9% of the vehicles alone are not licensed to be operated in the city of New York. And when you try to bring law and order, then they want to argue with you about why their son is not that type of a person. So like you started out this conversation, this segment is, we have to talk to our kids all day long. Like, my mother's not going to let me bring a scooter in the house. It's not going to be parked outside my door. There is a lack of responsibility on parenting and the community. Now, I'm going to say that and pause, because there is community, and I'm engaging them all the time, and others likewise that are part of the activism. They're part of the PTA. They're part of the precinct council board. So there are people that are doing it, but they're working overtime because you got some lazy ass parents that are not parenting their kids. Yes, I call them lazy ass. They're unaccountable. They don't know where their child is.
I co-sign it. I got your back on that one.
At the least, you should know where your kid is. At least you should know where your child is. And I've had situations and talked to people. They're like, well, what about so-and-so? I don't know where they're at. How do you not know who your kids roll with? Like, my mother didn't know everybody, but there were 2 or 3 that they're going to check there first. Like, even if I got a beat down for not coming home because I stayed in my boy house, then the mother would call and say, he over here asleep, right? I've got the whooping, not because she didn't know where I was, but because, 1, I shouldn't have been there, and 2, I didn't tell I was going to be there. I had permission to get there. So it's those type of things that are missing. And parents that are doing the right thing, God bless you, but there are some lazy parents that are not doing their job, period.
Mm-hmm. Right, absolutely. And I mean, it's sad because I'm not one that's going to co-sign we understand what society has they want to talk about the man society has done to the house of color, with the Claudine-esque kind of energy, you know what I'm saying? Welfare, get us on welfare. Now we got to hide any gifts of a good man trying to help. So we understand the divide and conquer. But the bottom line is, I still have seen women like Wendy, other families that have, a single parent household, but have supporting cast. Yes. I know that in my building right now, there are kids that fathers are not there for whatever reasons. Yes. Not saying it's just they weren't the father, or maybe the relationship severed or whatever happened, but I took over a role of a big brother. You know what I'm saying? And when they see it work, listen, people can tell you I had them outside in the middle of the street, working out, boxing, learning how to fight, because discipline. You know what I'm saying? And and then the parents would be like, "Yo, thank you," da 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 da. And they still to this day, they'll see Malika, they'll see me, They report, yo, what's going on in your life? Who you dating now? Now they have children, but yo, can I bring my child by to see you? All this, but it's about accountability. You know what I'm
they're
saying?
going to model what you showed them. There's a mother in the community, 4 boys, raised 4 boys. I remember the first one, the oldest one, and he must be like 23 now, 22. Every last one of those kids are doing well. The last one's in junior high school, right? But not one ever arrested or issued a citation. And they don't have anything but respect and kindness and love for their community. And as a community, when they graduated, if somebody need to be there to give them a boutonniere, or somebody need to chip in, because they understood that what she's doing and holding them accountable, and we come alongside and help make that a possibility. When I say we, various people in the community that became stakeholders in that, because they just admire the fact that here are 4 young men, and you throw in these boys, that's 6. So, but it's a community piece. What you did is you took your skill sets and your gift and said, this is how we're going to do this right here. And if you're doing those things, then you can't get in trouble, because not on my watch. And there's not enough of that. And we're kind of like, we're in a culture now where we take our kids to the school building and leave them and expect that system to teach them and give them everything in the middle. But what they're learning is not what the teacher is teaching, but those kids that are in there aside them. My biggest thing that I was concerned about as a parent was like, man, we don't swear in my house. And I was wondering what would happen, and we were fortunate enough to make some things happen. But those are the type of things, and I'm drawing from my own experience. I was bullied. I was terrorized in 5th grade. 5th grade was 1 year, but in my mind, man, it was so horrendous. You'd have thought I did 3 years of that with the cats from 140th.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
I will say this, when you take a kid that's bullied, then they will ultimately become the bully, and they will wild out. Like, because you got to a point where like, oh, I learned I can do a 1-2 with these things, Bill. I was like, yo, I went for bad. But
absolutely.
Yeah. But at the end of the day, if we don't come along and nurture those kids, because, and I brought that up to this point, that kid, me in 5th grade, my whole world view is I'm going to get stomped out. I'm in this by myself, and parents don't understand. My mother gave me this speech too many times. I don't send you to school to fight. Huh? I know that. Those parents aren't telling their kids that. I mean, I'm coming home with ripped clothes, knees all messed up. I fought every day coming out of 123. It was like a rite of passage.
Yeah.
Every time. So imagine kids that are in that space right now and have access to a weapon, or they want to come up. Now there's nobody nurturing this. And my dad at that time, actually, he left.
Hey, Al, how about they take a job and become a police officer?
There you go.
You know what I'm saying? And get real different with it. Because let me tell you something. I've seen a lot of punks on this job, and I tell them all the time, I was like, yo, listen, you different. Because, and I'm not trying to digress to that conversation. We can always have that. But just piggybacking off of what you're saying is that, to grow up in a city, you was taught not to be a punk. Like my parents told me, listen, don't come home and tell me somebody took something from you. Like that wasn't in the script. That wasn't in your vocabulary to come home and sit at the dinner table and tell me, and I ask you how your day, and then I say, well, where's your pencil, or where's your tie, or where's wherever? And you say, oh, little Petey took it. And you come home and little Petey got your shit. Like that wasn't for the course. That wasn't, because now, like you said, I got to get that fever at home. And listen,
and it's missing.
Yes, listen, it's missing. We have to, I used to do a lot of mentoring before the pandemic. And I was telling people at one point, I said, but you know what? I can sit back and be a part of the band right now, but I don't know if I can be the lead singer because, you know, my moves are not, you know, still hammer-esque. You know what I'm saying? And what I mean by that is that,
Don't hurt them, Hammer.
yeah, you know, when you're new in a group and you're young, you know, you're vibrant, you're doing everything, so people can relate to it. As you grow older, you know, look like Ronnie Isley, he's still prevalent right now. But the thing is, nobody's trying to see him do no little dancing steps. They want to hear that Mr. Big stuff.
Yeah,
I
yeah,
say
yeah.
all that. I say all that to say that we're in a different times now,
Uh-huh.
where the young kid out on the street knows that my old behind doesn't want to be out there, and I don't want to go to jail, and I don't want to fight him. But he
Mhm.
needs to relate to a young person that has a few years over him that he can
Yeah, yeah,
respect differently, because he knows he'll be like, "Oh, yo, OG, you know what I'm saying?"
yeah,
OG is a sign of respect, but it's also a sign to let me know that you old. You know what I'm
yeah.
saying? Like,
And and you, but you said it earlier, relatable, and being
yeah,
relatable makes a difference. And you could be older and still have that. It's a unique characteristic, but there are those that bridge that. But at the end of the day, is going and identifying someone else that could become that credible messenger.
yeah,
So, like, let's say my 20-year-old son, my 24-year-old son would be a conduit to another group of kids his age category, a little bit younger. And when you work in those type of scenarios, then they have an opportunity to connect with, like, they're not going to hear Bill, they're not going to hear Al, but they'll hear our kids. But there are spaces where they will allow us in and play a role.
absolutely. And you know what's so funny, Al? And you say that because, um, and you know, especially for a woman like Wendy, that's raising her children, or that's or still your children. I'm sure your children are a little older now. I don't know the ages, but there's a communicative relationship and a
Mhm.
respect. Like, you had to command that. You know what I'm saying? As a woman, you had to command that. Like you said, I know you had your parents and stuff like that, or whomever, your brothers. Like, but express how you had to command that respect from you when everybody goes home.
Well, I had to make a decision. Um, I had to either parent or be a friend. And when they got to a certain age, that 12, 13 age where it's difficult for them, their chemical balances of the brain are everywhere, their hormones are raging, the kids don't want to listen. But I had to get like really tough. It's more like, I'm not your friend, I'm not your buddy, I'm your mother, and you're going to do what I say, period. You're not going to like it, and I don't care. And that's it. What I've noticed though is that we have a lot of very, very, very young parents who also have very, very young parents. And this is the population that you get. Like, my mom was a teacher, and one of the biggest challenges for her was when she had to communicate with a parent because the child was not behaving. And she would say, Wendy, we often choose not to call the parent because the parent will be worse than the child.
Hmm.
And so what do you do? And at that point, the teachers would get together in that classroom and become sort of like a parent to them. They were fortunate enough that these teachers that were there were ready to do that. But like Al said, that's not what they're there for. And so
Right,
you
right,
have a
right,
lot of
right.
these very, very young parents who, because they got pregnant early or whatever their home situation may be, were not able to finish school, were not able to do the things that they needed to do to grow up. And so there are so many things that we need to look at in order to help our kids, our children, the youth. It doesn't start with just, there they are standing in the corner, go get them, talk to them. No, what's going on in their homes? Are
And
their parents present?
yeah,
Are they
you,
eating
you,
food?
It's crazy,
It's
Wendy.
crazy
And
when
I want to ask Al. I don't know if Gwen wants to chime in with this on how was it for you raising your kids? Because I never forget. I told my mother one time, and she was like, "Bill, don't Billy." She was like, "Don't go into that life, playing in the street." And I told her, I said, "Mom, you know, I said, truth be told, you did everything right. So no matter what door I go through, don't hold yourself accountable for that. Like if I do an asinine move at this stage in my life, I'm the ass, not you. You know what I'm saying? So I want to read a comment and I'm gonna answer this, but I want to ask you, Al and Gwen, if y'all want to comment, or just you yourself, how was it raising your kids to put them on the track that they are? But Trace G 11125 says, while you say we have some lazy ass parents, what about the cops nowadays that live in their cell phone instead of protecting those out there in the streets? Well, you're giving me a wide variety of a question to answer about cops. If you see him, you can report him. I don't see him, so I don't know where you want me to go with that. I say all that to say, um, cops right now, this I don't want to go off the beaten path. Cops are scared to lose their job, but also too, like I would tell the mayor myself, and that's my man. I would tell him, I'm saying, yo, right now, who's teaching these cops? You got youth. It's like how we say you got young parents raising young kids.
Mhm.
So the old school mentalities, the tutelage is not there. The manners, respect are
Mhm.
gone. When you see a young kid today saying yes, thank you, you're like, oh my god, like
Yeah.
is this heaven sent? You know what I'm saying? Just the fact that he said yes, no, thank you. You know what I'm saying? Or like you see a kid that still calls me Mr. Bill. I'm like, oh, what do you want? I'm about to give a kid $10 every time he says hello, Mr. Bill. And why?
Yeah.
But that was normal for me. You know what I'm saying? That was normal for us. So, but when we talk about these officers, I don't know where you want me to go with that. You got to give me some more to eat. She says every morning I watch the cops at 125th Street Station blocked off in a square, and each one is on their cell phones while I'm upstairs waiting for the train, getting harassed by people begging. So my thing is, why don't you go to the officer and say that I'm being harassed? Because the bottom line is, a person can ask you for money. Now, yeah, in the Giuliani era, he got rid of quality of life. That was his main thing, panhandling, squeegees, and stuff like that. But he arrested a lot of people, right? People were getting paid and making money, me included, for arresting people for squeegeeing. That wasn't my detail, so I didn't do that. But I'm just saying, you got arrested for people for less things that magnitude. Now, were the streets clean? Absolutely. Was stop, question, and frisk a part of that too? That was abused? Absolutely. So we got to find out what we want and how we want it. Because the bottom line is, I want quality of life again too. Trust me. But the one thing is, I still want a person, John and Jane Q. Public, or you, Tracy. I'm just sharing what I'm experiencing every day. I'm not disputing you, Tracy. I'm not saying that you're not experiencing that. What I'm trying to say is that, what can I say about somebody? If you didn't go to them and say, yo, I'm being harassed, what can I say to them? I didn't know you was being harassed. Um, Complain, go to your community board meetings. That's a lot of times. You got assemblymen here right now. I mean, where do you want to go with this? So I just want to say, Vanessa said a lot of these parents are young and hanging with their kids in the club, smoking weed with them, etc., and not setting good examples of their kids. No respect on both sides of the coin. Need mentors. I totally agree with that. And I say all that because we have to understand it all starts in the home. Like Al said earlier in the show, and Wendy has said about a village, but Al has said it so eloquently. We were all scared to come home, and our parents know that we did something, and our neighbor, Miss whomever, had to reprimand us because that means you embarrassed the family name. You know what I'm saying, Al? Right?
Are you
Oh
getting that?
my God! It was like a Mike Tyson video. I would get like boom, pom, pom, ping, pom, pom. Yo,
Come on, Ma, that hurts, Ma.
listen, blood, spitting, all that, body blows, body blows. You know what I'm saying? Yo, Al. So let me just go back to the question that I asked you. If, like I said, if your lovely wife wants to comment, if that's fine. If she doesn't, but how was it? What was the masterpiece, the master plan for you to raise your children to be law-abiding citizens? Because the bottom line is, and everybody out here listening, please, no one is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. So even if somebody does something and gets incarcerated or has a little minuscule record, trust me, I'm sure I can really take this shit someplace else and be like, yeah, there's some white constituents and co-workers that they was like, all right, he's just growing up. But for people of color, let me tell you something. I got on this job. I remember I was working for the mayor's office and I got pulled over in front of my building and was issued a citation for whatever it was, double parking, whatever the case may be, by an officer. And I showed him my city ID. He did not care. He motivated me to get on this job because I said I didn't want to be that punk. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I swear he must have retired and went on to another unit because I looked for his ass when I got on this job.
I know you did.
I looked for him because I sure wanted to give him the business because I played the equal playing field. Once I'm you, we both wear that blue. Ain't nothing between us but air and opportunity. And I'm giving it all to you. Which one you want? You know what I'm saying? You can get some air or you get some opportunity. You know what I'm saying? Tracy said there are at least 4 to 5 of them just standing there. Tracy, then I think you need to look for a supervisor and you need to go and tell a supervisor or tell them to say, officers, what's your name and badge number? Because we're going to rectify this right now. Say, listen, I'm being harassed. I need you to stop me from being harassed. And see what they do after that. So I'm supposed. So she said, Tracy said, so I'm supposed to come back downstairs and tell them. How about they walk around and let their presence be known and not just stepping out on donuts? You're right. You're right. Yeah. But the fact of it is, they are there. They're present. Now you want them to go and be proactive. No, if there's a supervisor that's not there, they're not going to be proactive. Listen, how many? And watch this. I'm gonna keep it 100 with you. This is real talk, Tracy. When your boss ain't watching you over your shoulder, how proactive are you at work? Who's doing that? Ain't nobody going beyond the call of duty to do extra shit. Nobody. So I mean, I get it. You're getting harassed. Tell them, because once you tell them, now you got accountability. You said, yo, John, Jimmy, they didn't do something. Put their name on paper. Blow their ass up. Because the bottom line is, I'm sure if somebody saw you at work taking an extra lunch break or doing something extra, they'll tell your boss and you get in trouble. So sometimes you just got to be the wheel that squeaks. You know what I'm saying? That's real talk. Go ahead, Al.
Absolutely. And Tracy, thank you for bringing that to our attention. That 125th and Lex is a hot station between downstairs in the subway at the bus stop and east and west of that block where there's so many methadone clinics and people coming also from Ward's Island and they're dropping them right there.
And that's crazy. That's a crazy station, bro. That's a crazy station.
There has been a concerted effort by elected officials and community folks to say, we need a police presence. So now you verified that we have the police presence, but it's not functioning as you think it should. Then even if you don't want to speak to the officers, get the ID that they have. Okay, I saw Officer Smith from the 3-2 or TP1 because they're probably transit, but get that information as you pass by and kick it back up and we can figure out what's going on. Like I had a meeting, an improv meeting with the commander over there. I think the 28th precinct, I can't remember, but just a brief conversation, but it all starts with conversation. And I thank you for bringing that, but that would be my suggestion because we were asking for cops for a presence down there, because if there's going to be a delay, I think even that subway, most delays that happen on that line are attributed to that stop right there that impacts the rest of the city because of the people that are holding the doors. That line, I think is that the 2 or the 4? Whatever that Lexington.
If it's Lennox, it's a 2. If it's Lexington, it's the 4 and the 5.
So there are a lot of data on that data, and people are pushing to see transformation in our community. So help us get it done better. But I don't see the two of those things together. A parent that's not reprimanding or don't know what parenting skills they need to be in that space, that has nothing to do with the office at all. I mean, that's apples and grapefruits. They're fruit, but they're two scenarios. So it's kind of, but you didn't do that. I still would say they're parents, and I'll walk it back a little bit. I won't call them lazy ass. I would say uninformed without the proper parenting tools and the right context, and you're going to have bad behavior that doesn't get corrected because the model is not working right. So you asked Brother Bill, my wife, and I to comment on how we did with our kids. Hold
on. Let me just comment on Tracy. Tracy says, I'm very proactive because I have a sense of work ethic. Tracy, okay, I get it. I mentioned that, but I don't come out the feelings with this one right now. I mean, the bottom line is you're asking about something that's bothering you, and I have no answer for that. And when I say I have no answer, we're talking about a different work ethic, a different era in policing right now. Officers are not trying to get involved in anything because they feel, I'm telling you I know now, they feel that if they arrest somebody or they get into a situation, they might lose their job, and a person is not going to do any time. So it doesn't make anything. So they're just doing it 8 hours. As we call it, they're skating. Now, for the law-abiding citizen like yourself that feels that you're being harassed, put them to task. Make them earn a paycheck. Officer, I feel scared. Can you walk me downstairs? Can you stop him from harassing me? Now you have a complaint if they don't do that. But to sit here and say that, what we do, that's the best answer I can give you. Otherwise, then I can't come down there and work with you and kick their ass. You know what I'm saying? Because I'll get in trouble. But the bottom line is put them to task. Make them earn their paycheck for that time you were waiting for that train. That's what I want to say. Rochelle said 3 things I know that work. Volunteer in your community to make things better, activities in the neighborhood, and be a part of it. My mom always said, help with the solutions, make a plan. So go ahead, Al. Thank you, Rochelle. Go ahead, Absolutely. Al. Yeah, what did you do? And then we can close out after that. Go ahead, brother.
Hold on, the boss is on the phone.
The boss is on the phone?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So for me, I think, and I'll yield to Gwen, a lot of the sitting at the table with the homework, making sure some of the things are in place, what's the after school, what it looks like, putting in a lot of hours was kind of difficult for me to do all of those things. So parenting is, if at all possible, a 2-person job. If you have it, that's great. But I know that's not the world that we live in. So we play off of each other. Honey, you have to slide.
Oh, okay. So yeah, that's part of that is true. I think the biggest piece of the puzzle is, growing the kids up in church, having that outlet for them and setting those foundations for them early out, right? And more importantly, I think keeping them active, right? So what are they going to do? Is it basketball? Okay, if that they're not the greatest basketball player, is it going to be soccer? If they're not that great with that, is it going to be like football, or is it going to be dance, or is it going to just keeping them active throughout their entire school year, so that there's something for them to do. I think the biggest piece is just finding them something to do, because the idle mind is definitely the playground for the devil, right? We'll think
Absolutely.
Those things. But I do remember someone asked my brother once, you don't have, you didn't have a girlfriend in high school. You didn't have this. He's like, no, I was too busy. He said, so, I mean, I took this page from him because he said, keep your kids busy. Why? You know, they won't get in trouble. He said, I play basketball all my life.
I whooped that ass. They ain't getting in trouble.
No. So, you know, and so, you know, my kids weren't great basketball players, right? So we just opted to do other things, you know, and just keeping them involved. I think that's the bigger piece, you know, and sometimes in a family that have maybe a single parent, that may look different. You know, maybe it's after school programs and then you're picking them up after school. I mean, because we worked. So it wasn't like we were home with the kids. We worked and relied on our parents to help out. It takes a family to raise, you know, to raise the kids, you know, and you want to make sure that the community that you put them in is safe. So that's important.
Yeah, and Gwen, I honestly agree with you. I mean, it was a village because I don't know too many families that had a parent that was able to stay home in my community, my friends, and they was able to stay home and monitor the kids. Listen, you had a set time when we were able to leave the house and come home, do your homework. And when we come home, they had to check the home. One parent would try to check the homework if it was a 2-family home. One would check the homework, or we check it before dinner or after dinner. And listen, there was a time when my parents was like, I was like, my father's smarter than me. I come home. He was like, don't watch TV, do the homework. I was like, okay. I come home, I put the TV on, I'm watching WPIX Picks Love You Back and all whatever the Picks shit was, whatever, right? Next thing you know, my father come home and he's like, you did your homework. I was like, yeah. He said, you watch TV? I said, nah. He put his hand on the TV, it was hot. As soon as the TV was hot, then my face got hot. I was like, That's like,
and that's so true. The bigger piece is like checking, right? Inspecting what you expect, right? So most of the time, you know, our kids think that they're smarter than we are. And they're like, oh, I want to go over to my friend's house. So we didn't do a lot of that with them. And if we did, it was like, okay, so let me speak to the mom.
Yes.
So, oh, no, you're not going over there because I've never been there, you know, or, okay, is the father home? Okay. Oh, well, do they have guns? Yes. And so these are the questions that I would call and ask, you know, the mother, or, you know, at that point, oh, do you guys have guns? Oh, yeah, we have a shell case full of them. You're like, oh, no, you know, whatever, you know, but, you know, just things like that would just helped us, you know, to, you know, think about, you know, whether or not our kids would spend the night out at someone's house, you know.
Before we close out, Gwen, I want to ask you, and Tracy, I see you said I have no problem in speaking up. Just point me in the right direction. We got you, Tracy. The assemblyman had just mentioned, like, if you ask for some help and you don't get any names, jot down some names. That way we can move forward and we can talk to the higher authorities, their supervision, and tell them that. But Gwen, I want to ask you a question before we get out of here, and then we can let Wendy and Al close out. What do you think this community, this new generation, you hear, girl, you hear what us now says. What do you think this new generation to become better law-abiding citizens?
That's tough, right?
Yeah.
Because everyone doesn't live in the same shoe, right?
Right.
You know, every house is, you know, some are glass, some are, you know, some are made with wood and some are made with straw, and you know, so, you know, and everyone's, so that's a tough question. You know, you know, I'm going to say prayer, right? You know, I think of the scripture, if my people will call by my name, will humble themselves and pray and seek my face, turn from their wicked ways, then thou shalt hear from heaven, and then only then will I heal the land. So, you know, so if you don't have a foundation, right, then everything else is sinking around you. So I think the first thing is really prayer and in our communities and what that looks like. And so, and just really being, I would say, intentional with our youth. So, and who are these people? Are they the police officers? And if it's the police officers, then what's our local government doing to bridge that gap, right? Because sometimes they can't see what's in front of them. So they need other people to help them come along the way. So, I think, to your point, it takes a village. So what will it take? I think a village, right? And ensuring that that village is one that that's inspiring, that's uplifting, and really smart about what we really want to pour into our kids. And I think that will help, in our communities.
Beautifully said. Thank you. I appreciate that. I really do. I respect it at 100. Wendy, and then I'll let Al close us out on his thoughts on that aspect. Go ahead, Wendy. What's your thoughts, real quick?
This is very loud. Okay. So, what am I going to say? Repeat everything that's already been said, right? Right. It's, we have to be there for our kids, but we also, as a community, like you said, one of the things that I always thought about for my sons was, I'm not a man, they are. And so there are a lot of things that I knew they would be going through and thinking about that I would not be able to help them with. I probably wouldn't even understand it. What are you talking about? And so what you were doing, which is, creating that community and being a big brother to a child, it is so important to be able to participate that way, to give of your time to children. Like, I know the 4 kids that Al was talking about, and the mom, and she and I, have a lot in common, obviously, but it takes all of us. And when we see someone, offer help, because sometimes people are just too afraid to get a hard no, and they are afraid to ask for help. So offer it. People will take the help, and believe me, it is needed. It is tough being a single parent. It is supposed to be a 2-person job. But when when it's just you, then you got to bust ass and work hard and ask for help when you need it.
Yeah, very much so. It definitely is a 2-parent job, and I think a lot of times, speaking in old school, I think a lot of people stay together because just to raise a family, because the way they were raised up, it was generational. Like, okay, well, my father was home. He did the right thing, maybe. And then you see how it's so funny how you see people later on in life, 20 some years, the kid is 20 some years old, and they'd be like, oh, well, we're getting a divorce. Be like, what do you mean you get divorced? Well, you're out the house now. They really don't want to be together, but we raised you. Wait a minute. What? That weren't. Listen, we raised you to be a good man and a good woman, whomever. The bottom line is, Al, what's your thoughts, brother? What you feeling?
Again, it's all of those things that you've expressed, and Wendy and Gwen has mentioned as well, and even some more things. And no one individual is going to be the same as the other one, or they may not be exactly as you and I were. But pour into these kids as much as you can. I think when you read a comment that someone talked about, 3 things: volunteering, being this, and being that. I think it takes those. And if you're not willing to really roll your sleeve up and get engaged with what's going on in the community, then you're just somebody waiting to, pontificate. You're waiting for something to talk about. But the book of James says, faith without works is dead. And we're losing generations of our kids to prison and to the cemetery because we're not taking that extra step. When our 14-year-old kids have access to guns, I think how we communicate, I would encourage parents and friends and aunties and nanas to really engage with their kids, to hear what they're feeling. Because, like, honestly, I'll tell you, if I had access to a gun in 5th grade, I would have taken it. I would have taken it to school. Why? Because life for me was horrific. No one knows what it's like to fight every day and lose, get jumped, fight every day. And for me, the only way I could see these people getting up off me was to hurt them. And I'm not encouraging advocating guns and youth violence or anything. I'm just saying that I was so traumatized at that point. I know if I had one in my hand, I would take it to school to handle it because I wasn't winning. And God had it so that when I reached the 9th grade, going into 10th grade, I ran across those cats outside of Menacink at 142nd Street, and they tried to come see me. But at that point, I had already learned how to work these 1-2s. And believe I put a country ass whooping on that dude.
Listen, where you active is where you get it. I'm a coach. That's my thing, my slogan, brother. And so you just go ahead, please finish. I apologize.
So in that fight, I don't want you to. I don't want people to leave like, yo, I did a Ali. Yo, I was swinging for my life because for 4 years, I remember.
Yo, listen, you could do an Ali or you could do Alicia. As long as you got somebody off your ass, it doesn't make a difference.
I don't know what I did. I know his nose was bleeding.
People get it twisted.
And
listen,
I
tell people all the time, in the martial arts, I've been in martial arts 35 years. I will bite you faster than I will punch you. So let's people out here in YouTube land and wherever you listen to us, don't get it twisted. To get you off me and make you understand who I am, I will do anything in my power to hurt you. I will bite you, pluck you, pinch you, scratch you. But trust me, when it's all over, you know I touched you.
Yes. And our kids build are traumatized in where they're, again, I'm not justifying guns in the hands of kids, but we have to do better with the environments that they're in and the things that they're engaging. Some of them don't even have a decent meal at home or a place to sleep. Let's talk about molestation and everything else that takes place that these kids are coming into a school system with, or in our society, in our building, in our house, in our families. And it's gone. Mental issues, mental health issues are there. And what drives that narrative? I'm going to say to be continued here because we can go on a little bit more. But we need so much help for our young people. And if you have skill sets, use them. Be a game changer. Whatever that looks like, whatever God has equipped you with to do. If you're listening to me here and you're online, go take somebody. It could be your niece. It could be your nephew. It could be your grandkid. Go love on them because they need to know that they got somebody they can talk to when it's going down.
And Vanessa said, I totally agree. We need more recreational centers in our communities for our youth. The Reagan administration took the federal funds out of our communities for our youth after school programs in the 70s. I think
hold on. To that person, know that if they connect with the Division of Youth, DYC. DYC.
Well, I think Vanessa is in another city. Vanessa, are you in where are you in Virginia somewhere? But the bottom line is, I think she's just referencing to the fact that what you're saying, Al, is for those that are in New York. Go ahead, tell them that. Yeah, please.
You're not for profit and you want to utilize public school space to run some after school stuff, then get with the commissioner for DYCD. No question about it. They want the schools to operate from morning to evening as they were for us, after school program. And the buildings are there. And if you got something viable, go for it. If you can't make it happen, then holler back.
And Vanessa said after the funds were not there, drugs and crime increased in our communities. Facts. Listen, because like I said, we all grew up, everybody here grew up, especially Al and I, and I'm sure Gwen. I know Gwen is much younger than us, right? Like that, right? Yeah. And Wendy, both of them are much younger than us. That Al and I, we grew up in a situation where there was after school programs. There were people that were in place to do things like that. That is all gone right now. It's far and few in between. But the bottom line is it still starts in the home. That's the moral of my story. It still starts at the home with mommy and daddy, or mommy and grandma, mommy and somebody, mommy and in the super. Let me tell you something. Somebody can help you. Somebody can be a teacher. I love hearing the stories of people later on. And the bottom line is right now we need to go and get these rappers that are wearing all this drip and showing all these bezels and stuff like that, and have them come back and talk to the youth. You made a lot of money acting like you that person, and not to say that you're not, but the bottom line is you're not busting no guns anymore because you don't want to do that time. So stop
Yes.
telling these young kids to do that time.
Yes.
And Al, in closing, I want to ask you one question, and then we can get out of here because we'll save it for next month.
Uh-huh.
How do you feel about the gun licensing for civilians right now? I hope you get one personally. Me personally, I hope you get one. But I'm just what your feelings are.
It's an iffy one. Like we did something when the federal government changed. I want to say in July. We went back to Albany to look at what that looks like in New York City, in New York State, where licensed gun holders could go, where they couldn't go, yada yada. I think anytime you want to access a weapon, you want to make sure that you have training for it. You want to make sure that you go to the range and all of those things. I'm not getting in anybody's way that qualifies legally for a weapon. I think when we did it, when I say we, I'm talking about the New York State legislature, along with the governor, the Senate, and the Assembly. It's still in court because some of the things that we agreed on, like let's say you can't take your weapon to Macy's on 34th Street. Some of the stuff that we put in there, it's now being walked back because it smacks up against what the federal piece of legislation says that in the First Amendment, the right to have. So now we're just talking about where can you have that so you don't have people taking them in churches. So there's some back and forth. I support the idea that if you are able to get a license, duly qualified, trained in handling and securing that weapon, and you qualify all the more, God bless you all day.
Yeah.
All day.
Everybody, that's Real Talk. That's what Assemblyman Al Taylor. I'm the host, Bill Forster. This is what we do. This is Real Talk with Al Taylor. Thank you to Wendy and his lovely wife, Gwen. Al, I love the beard. You're going to make me grow mine back. I'm trying to keep it young. I'm trying to go back to an age. It's so funny. All my life when I was young, I wanted to grow facial hair until it got gray. And then I said, well, wait a minute. I'm looking too old now. But now I think I might have to go back. I just don't want to feel what I look like. You know what I'm saying?
You'll never keep doing what you're doing. Malika got you. She got you on lock. She'll bring you around the house.
That is true.
You're going to be young. If it kills you, she going to keep you young. If it kills you.
Everybody, that's Assemblyman Al Taylor. See him next month. You don't know what we'll talk about. We'll have something good to converse with you all about. Peace and blessings, everybody. Thank you for chiming back. We're back. October, we're back. Shout out to all the sponsors. Deadly Arts and Survival. Go ahead. We're back, baby. It's not a game. Listen, Ingram Taxes, Melba Wilson. Every Wednesday, every third Saturday of the month, we're at the Row House. Malika's celebrating her birthday this October 15th. We'll be there. We're partying hardy. Got the street blocked off and everything.
Wow.
Leon Ellis, Harlem Underground, Reggie Wells, Quality Speakers. Thank you. That's Assemblyman Al Taylor. I'm Bill Forster. Thank you. See you soon, man. See you Wednesday. Appreciate y'all.